Job seekers do not know I'm a zombie who feeds on humans, desperate fools. Who's next?
His name was Ethan Cole, 26 years old, $62 in his bank account, and a mother whose next dialysis treatment cost $1,200. He hadn't eaten a real meal in 4 days. Not because he couldn't cook, because the math didn't work. It never worked. He'd applied to over 60 jobs in 3 months and every single one had come back the same way. A rejection email, or worse, nothing at all. Just silence. Just the sound of a man drowning slowly with no one reaching in. The sticky note on his fridge said it all. Mum. Treatment Friday. $1,200. He looked at it every morning like it was a countdown. So on a Tuesday night, running on instant noodles and desperation, Ethan refreshed the job board one more time. And that's when he saw it. Night Operations Coordinator. Hale Consolidated, Private Division. $8,000 a month. Paid weekly. Cash option available. Hours 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. No experience required. Discretion preferred. He read it twice. He read it a third time. And before he finished reading it a fourth, he hit reply. He never even finished filling out the form. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. One line. No greeting. No company signature. Just Mr. Cole. We'd like to meet. Tomorrow evening. Foha. Ethan stared at his screen. He hadn't submitted anything yet. The form was still open on his laptop. He hadn't hit send. His friend Maya Brooks found out before he even called her. That was Maya. She was already 3 steps ahead before you finished the sentence. She pulled up everything she could find on Hale Consolidated before Ethan's car even reached her street. And what she found stopped her cold. No website. No employees on LinkedIn. No Glassdoor reviews. No physical address anywhere online. The business registration was publicly filed, but the date on it read 1987. 37 years old, and not a single digital footprint. Like the company existed on paper and nowhere else. She called the number listed on the filing. It rang twice. Someone picked up. Didn't say a word. She said hello. They hung up. Then she found the forum post. It was buried on an archived backup of a message board that hadn't been active since the early 2000s. One post. No replies. The account had been deleted the same day it was created. The text read, I saw Victor Hale at the warehouse loading dock at 3 in the morning. He was eating. I don't know what he was eating. I don't want to know. I won't be going back. Maya showed Ethan everything. The dead company trail. The disconnected number. The forum post. She laid it all out on her laptop in the front seat of her car, and watched his face. He looked at it for a long time. Then he said, My mom has 3 weeks until her next treatment, and I have $62. And Maya didn't have an answer for that. Because she knew. She hated that she knew. But she knew. His phone buzzed again. The meeting was confirmed. Victor Hale. Tomorrow. The man who walked into that coffee shop did not look like a monster. Victor Hale looked like money that had been old for so long it forgot it was ever new. Perfect dark suit. Silver cufflinks. The kind of posture that belongs to someone who has never once rushed anywhere in his life. He looked to be in his early 50s, but something about his face sat wrong in a way Ethan couldn't name. Too settled. Too still. Like a photograph of a man rather than a man. They shook hands. And the cold hit Ethan immediately. Not cool. Not firm. Cold. Like pressing your palm against the side of a building at midnight. No quorum sandernis. Nothing generating heat at all. Victor smiled and said he appreciated directness. He explained the role simply. Inventory oversight night hours because the machinery ran cooler. Discretion required NDA on day 1. He said his operation had run without interruption for over 30 years. He said he had no turnover problems. That his people stayed. A waitress brought Victor a black coffee. He never touched it. His eyes followed her as she walked away, 1 beat longer than they should have. Ethan asked what the company manufactured. Victor said components. Proprietary. He said it the way people say things when the answer is designed to end the question. Then Victor checked his watch and stood up abruptly. He said he had to go. That the light was changing. Ethan looked up. It was overcast. Dusk. There was no change in light at all. Victor was already at the door. He turned once and said, "Welcome to the team, Ethan." Friday night. 9 o'clock. The mansion. And then he was gone. Ethan looked down at the coffee on the table. Still steaming. Untouched. Like Victor had never needed it at all. That night, Maya called him with one more thing. She had tracked down another job listing. Same format, same language, posted 6 months ago. She found one of the applicants. A man named Derek Walsh, 28 years old. He got the job. 5 weeks later, his family reported him missing. His last known location was pinged from a residential address in the hills. It was the same address as Victor Hale's mansion. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed for a long time after that call. He thought about Derek Walsh. He thought about his mother. He thought about $62. On Friday night, he drove to the mansion. The first 2 weeks were almost normal. Almost. The mansion was large and quiet and tasteful. A woman named Sandra walked Ethan through the inventory system on his first night. Spreadsheets, manifests, component tracking, nothing unusual. Sandra was calm and pleasant and completely unremarkable. The work was boring. The pay hit his account at exactly midnight every Friday. $2,000. Every week. On time. His mother's treatment got paid. The sticky note came off the fridge. Ethan told himself it was fine. Told himself eccentric rich men ran unusual companies all the time. Told himself the night hours were just a quirk and the cold handshake was just bad circulation. And the untouched coffee was just a man who'd ordered out of habit. He told himself a lot of things in those 2 weeks. Then on night 11, Sandra wasn't at her station. Victor passed through the room and said she'd moved to a different part of the operation. That she was well. That there was nothing to worry about. Ethan waited until Victor left the room. Then he picked up his phone and searched Sandra's name. Her social media. No posts since her first day at the mansion. Her last message to a friend. Still visible because her profile was public. Sent 11 days ago. It read, "Something about this place is off but the money is real. I'll stick it out one more week." Ethan read it twice. Set his phone down. Stared at the wall. He told himself it was fine. He was not fine. Night 14. Victor appeared at the inventory room door. And said it was time Ethan saw the full operation. He led him to the living room. Pulled back a large rug. And opened a door in the floor. A staircase going down. With every step the temperature dropped. The smell hit Ethan somewhere around the 4th stair. Cold metal, damp earth. And something else underneath that he couldn't name. Something that made the back of his throat tighten. At the bottom was a massive underground space. Machines running at full volume. Workers moving in rows. Dozens of them, maybe more. The noise was enormous. But somehow the silence was louder. Because no one was speaking. No one was reacting to anything. No one looked up when Ethan walked in. He stood there and watched for a full minute. Studying them. Trying to figure out what was wrong. Then he realized. In 60 seconds of watching, not one of them had blinked. He looked down. On the collar of the worker nearest to him, a badge. The name read Sandra. He looked up slowly at her face. Her eyes were flat. Not sad. Not vacant. Something worse than either of those things. Like eyes that had simply forgotten what they were for. He grabbed her arm. She turned toward him. Her skin was gray at the jawline, the edges of her neck. The same discoloration he'd noticed under Victor's collar at the coffee shop. She looked directly at him, and through him at the same time. He stepped back. His foot caught something on the ground. He looked down. A cracked phone. He picked it up. The wallpaper photo showed Sandra at a birthday party. Arms around 2 friends, laughing. Full of life. A woman who had been real and warm, and whole not even 2 weeks ago. Then Victor's voice came from directly behind him. He said she adjusted well. They all do. Eventually. Victor led Ethan through a side corridor, and told him to wait. He stepped into a small room. The door didn't close fully. Ethan stood in the corridor and waited. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Then he heard it. A sound he had no category for. Low and wet and animal. Nothing a human throat should make. He stepped forward. Looked through the gap. Victor's back was to him. But his posture, it was gone. Everything composed and controlled and tailored had collapsed. His shoulders rolled forward like a man dropping a mask he'd been holding for decades. His head tilted at an angle that wasn't right for a human spine. Then Victor turned slightly. Just his profile. And Ethan saw his jaw. It was unhinged. Extended. His eyes completely black. No white left at all. He was feeding. Ethan stopped breathing. He stood in that corridor for 90 seconds and did not make a sound. Then Victor straightened. Reached into his breast pocket. Took out a folded handkerchief and wiped his mouth. Turned to the small mirror mounted on the wall and looked at himself. Adjusted his tie. Then, without turning around, he said, "You can come out now, Ethan." Silence. He said, "I smelled you the moment you stepped into the corridor." He turned around. His face was completely normal. Composed. Almost warm. He said, "Sit down. Let me explain what I am." They sat in the corridor and Victor spoke the way a man speaks when he has rehearsed a confession for 37 years and never had anyone to give it to. He said he died in 1987. Incompletely. Men who didn't want their labor violations exposed arranged it. He woke up in a county morgue with no heartbeat and full memory. He'd been that way ever since. He said the worst part wasn't the hunger. The worst part was that he remembered everything. The fully turned workers downstairs felt nothing, wanted nothing, remembered nothing. Victor remembered all of it. Every meal. Every person he'd processed. Every decision he'd made, and every one he'd watched himself make and couldn't stop. 37 years of being completely aware of what he was doing, and unable to stop doing it. He built the operation because he needed a system. The hunger required a supply. The workers required management. The money required legitimacy, each piece feeding the next. A perfect, self-sustaining machine built on the bones of desperate people who just needed a chance. He looked at Ethan and said, "They came the same way you came. They were offered stability. They took it." Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it. And for just a moment something shifted in his expression, something that wasn't quite human. He said, "Your friend has been parked outside my gate for the past 40 minutes. Maya, isn't it?" Ethan looked down at his phone. One bar of signal. A message from Maya sent 45 minutes ago. It read, "Ethan, I found a photo of Derek Walsh. I know where I've seen his face. You need to get out right now." And below it, a screenshot. Security camera footage from somewhere. A large industrial space. Workers in rows. And standing in the third row, Derek Walsh. Badge on his collar. Eyes flat. Gone. The staircase door was locked. The workers had begun to turn, slowly, the way a crowd shifts when someone starts running. Victor stepped back into the shadows. He said, "You wanted stability. You wanted your mother taken care of. I can still give you that." Sandra didn't resist. "You won't feel it after the first few minutes, and you will never worry about money again." Ethan had one bar of signal left. He sent Maya 2 words. "Kumein." Now. Victor went still. Then a crash from the floor above. A door. Footsteps. Maya's voice calling his name. Ethan found a ventilation panel in the side wall. Old bolts corroded. He tore at it with both hands. Got it open. He took Sandra's cracked phone from his jacket and kept it. Then he crawled through. He found Maya in the kitchen. They ran and didn't stop until they were 3 blocks away. Hands shaking, lungs burning, the mansion disappearing behind them in the dark. 2 days later they sat across from a detective named Harold Prue and told him everything. Sandra's phone. The photos Maya had captured. The missing persons linked to the mansion address. Derek Walsh. The underground factory. All of it. Detective Prue wrote everything down. He told them he'd look into it. 3 days after that he called. He said his team had executed a full search of the Hale property. 2 units. Complete sweep. No underground structure. No secondary floor. No factory. The basement was a standard utility space. Heating unit, water heater, storage. Completely unremarkable. Ethan told him that wasn't possible. That he had been down there. That Maya had photos. Prue said the photos showed an industrial space that could be any warehouse. No metadata confirming location. No structural evidence on the property. No physical connection to Hale. He said Victor had been cooperative. Calm. Said Ethan had worked for him briefly, and been let go after a week. Said he was sorry Ethan was having a hard time. Then Prue said something that Ethan would hear in his sleep for weeks afterward. He said, "Mr. Cole, I'd encourage you to speak to someone. You've clearly been under significant stress." Ethan hung up. He sat in his car without moving. Then he opened his laptop and searched Harold Prue's name. Standard results. 20-year career. A couple of commendations. Nothing unusual. Then he checked employment records. Public filing. And he found it. An 8-month gap. Starting October 2019. No employment record. No tax filings. No public record of any kind for 8 full months. Like the man had simply stopped existing. Then in early 2020, he reappeared. Assigned to the precinct. Business as usual. Like nothing had happened. Ethan searched the date Prue disappeared. Cross-referenced it with the job listing archives Maya still had open on her laptop. October 2019. Hale Consolidatet. Night Operations Coordinator. The same listing. The same format. The same words. Detective Harold Prue had applied for the same job. And then he'd vanished for 8 months. And then he'd come back, reassigned to the precinct, and spent the next 5 years making sure nobody found anything. A week later, Ethan and Maya sat in a corner diner booth and tried to figure out what came next. The food sat in front of them untouched. They looked like two people trying to hold very still so the world wouldn't notice them. Maya said, "So what do we do? The detective is compromised. The evidence is gone. Victor walks free." Ethan said he'd been thinking about something. Victor told him he'd been doing this since 1987. 37 years. Which meant there were workers in that underground space who had gone in decades ago. Dozens of people. Maybe more. And in 37 years, nobody had ever found a single thing. Because everyone who got close enough to look, ended up looking the other way. Or ended up underground. His phone buzzed. A job listing notification. He'd forgotten to turn them off. He glanced at it. Then his hand stopped. He turned the phone toward Maya. The listing read, Night Operations Coordinator. $8,000 a month. Paid weekly. No experience required. Discretion preferred. Different company name. Never heard of it. No online presence. Copyright filing dated 6 weeks ago. Right after Victor's arrest that never stuck. 1 review. Posted that morning. 5 stars. The reviewer's name was Sandra M. The review text read, "Stable hours. Great for people who need consistency. Management really takes care of you. You'll never want to leave." Maya looked up from the phone. She said, "That's not Sandra writing that." Ethan said, "No. It's not." Which means someone else is running it now. While Victor walks around untouchable, someone else has already rebuilt the pipeline. A new listing. A new company name. Using Sandra's identity to post the bait. He looked out the window. Across the street, a man in a perfectly fitted dark suit stood on the sidewalk. Completely still. Not waiting for a light. Not looking at his phone. Just standing there. Watching the diner. The light changed. Every pedestrian around him moved. He didn't. Ethan blinked. The man was gone. Maya asked if he was okay. She hadn't seen it. Ethan set his phone face down on the table. He picked up his fork. His hand was shaking. He said, "Victor wasn't the top. Somebody built this before him. Somebody turned him in 1987 and let him think he built an empire on his own. And now that we disrupted his operation, that somebody has already replaced it. With a new name. And new bait. And they already know who we are." Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "So what do we do?" Ethan looked at her. He said, "We find out who turned Victor." The screen goes dark. But somewhere in this city, a phone is buzzing. Someone desperate is reading a job listing. $8,000 a month. Night shift only. No experience required. And they're about to hit reply.